Hello and good morning. Welcome to Morning Brew. It is the 6th of April 2023. It's a Thursday. This week seems to be going really slow. Tomorrow is Good Friday, so I hope you all have a day off school or day off work or a day off, I don't know, whatever it is you do. I will be here tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow morning at 9:30, bright and early, to say happy Good Friday, I guess. So I hope you can all hear me. I hope you can all see me. I hope the graphics are working correctly. I hope the bitrate isn't too crazy. I hope that everything's going okay. Big hello to Ben Riddings. We've got Reagan Elite out there as well. We've got Mad Monk 33. We've got Nina Hathaway saying first time I've caught this live. Oh, brilliant. Sorry for being a bit late there. I couldn't find my coat. Ben says, so Scott Benton, colour me shocked. Sarcasm. That's about the arrest of the Jesus, SMP treasurer. He was a treasurer, was he? A chairman or something. He's the husband of Nicola Sturgeon, and he was arrested yesterday and then set free without charge as they're investigating financial irregularities, which is what will always get you in the end, I feel. I mean, it's what got Al Capone, and looks like it's what's getting Donald Trump hot under the collar, so to speak. Number 3 is there. Hi, Richard. And we also got Cathal saying morning all. Today I want to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday with the Equalities and Human Rights Commission over in, it's in London, isn't it? Basically, Kimmy Badenoch, who is one of the worst people ever invented, she's been put in charge of women and equality, and to further the causes of equality, she has decided to make things decidedly unequal for trans people. So, under the Equalities Act of 2010, as far as I understand it, and don't forget I'm not an expert on any of this, it basically says that if you identify as a woman and you have a gender recognition certificate, you can have the same rights and protections in the workplace as someone who was born a cis woman. Okay, so basically, if you are sexually harassed, you can claim it against your employer. If you are sacked for being a woman, you can claim against your employer. This is going to take that ability away from trans women and give it to trans men. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. It's very strange what they're trying to do. And obviously, it's part of the culture war that Lee Anderson let the cat out the bag a couple of months ago in that interview when he said it's all going to be about refugees and trans people. That's all we're going to have now for the next year. It's going to be refugees and trans people. I hope you like talking about refugees and trans people, because that's all we're going to talk about, refugees and trans people. Maybe we'll find some trans refugees having to flee their country for persecution for being trans. And then we can persecute them even more because they're trans and they're refugees. Yeah, because the Tories are panicking. This is the Tories in full-on panic mode. And the Tories are the type of person that if the two of you were in water, in trouble, they would push you under the water to keep themselves afloat. That's what Tories are like. I've got to be quite careful what I say in these videos, because so far every single one of my Morning Brew videos has been deemed inappropriate for advertising by YouTube, which isn't good because I can't make these videos for no money whatsoever, YouTube. But it's a bit frustrating. So I'm trying to be measured in my appraisal of what's happening with the Tory party at the moment, but it doesn't seem to me, as a casual observer, that they've lost their freaking minds, and they've got nothing left. Boris Johnson isn't in anymore. They haven't got Brexit to fall back on because it's a disaster. It's an economic disaster. It's a social disaster. It's an ethical disaster. It's just a disaster. The rivers are full of human excrement and no one can go on holiday because everyone's going to have their passport stamped. We're stopping freedom of movement. The Tories proudly announced all over Twitter, and some of us went, hang on, that's our freedom of movement as well. You know, that was our right to go and live and work in 31 other countries without having to ask permission. That was our right to spend as much time as we wanted in our own continent, not having to spend only 90 days out of every 180 days in the continent. Our right to get a job in the continent of Europe, the continent in which we live, without having to apply for a work permit. Like someone who's not from Europe. Or maybe from Belarus. I don't know. One of the two. Anyway, so I'm going to say hello to number 3, saying Scott Benton was caught in a time sting. Oh, sorry, Scott Benton. Sorry, God. Well, that's embarrassing. Well, it's all right. It's early, isn't it? By the way, if you hear some banging, we've actually got the builders in. And that's not a euphemism. I've actually got builders upstairs banging away at things. And I wanted to have a go, actually, because they're taking out a party wall. And I wanted to sort of go up and smash through it and go, here's Johnny. But I didn't get a chance. Sorry, Scott Benton, Tory MP for Blackpool South. Oh, God. Yeah, finger on the pulse here. Anyway, he's been done in a time sting in which he basically said to that he could to a fictional group that he could lobby on their behalf, and he went through all the ways that he can lobby. Anyway, he's lost the whip, and Blackpool, which I love, I do love Blackpool. I really don't. Is now looking at maybe a recall. I don't know. Hopefully, and maybe they'll elect someone who's not a Tory. Go on, Blackpool, do it for me. Do it for yourself. Do it for your own dignity. I mean, seriously, don't chummy up to the whip hand. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Tories aren't going to make Blackpool great again. They really aren't going to make Blackpool great again. Not that it ever was. Graham trying to remain measured and temperate. Where is Graham Hughes? What have you done with it? I know. It's a bit mad, isn't it? It's like, oh, do you want to calm down, Graham? You get too excited. I'm like, what? What do you want me to do? Go get a personality transplant? Look, there's loads of people on the internet who just talk about what's happening in a very cool and calm and level-headed kind of way. Go watch them instead. Builders banging away. Ooh, missus, says the Freckle Puny. I said it wasn't a euphemism. Yeah, there's a whole builder orgy going on upstairs. Context says, good morning, everyone. Plum Duff is there saying good morning, people. And Jeff True is there as well. Fantastic. So, yeah, Scott Benton, Tory MP for Blackpool South. I think it's going to turn out to be Blackpool North now, isn't it? I'm getting everything wrong today. He was he was done in a time sting. And again, you know, the excuses come thick and fast. Oh, it's not fair. It was a fictional company. Oh, it's not. And the thing is that Kwasi Kwarteng didn't have the whip taken off him for the sting that was done led by donkeys, even though he was asking for like £10,000 a minute to go and work on this board. He said, oh no, that's fine. That there's no conflict of interest there. The fact that Tories any MPs are allowed to have second jobs is abhorrent. If you want to have a second job, that's fine. Do it in your own time. You can't be paid for it. You can't get anything for it. You know, if you want to go and sit on the board, no, actually, that's not even any good either, because I'm trying to make it so that if you are a doctor, then you can continue being a doctor, which would be helpful, I guess, as an MP as well. But at the same time, there's so few MPs that you could point at and go, well, actually, they're doing a social good in their second job. That, yeah, I don't think it's worth it. I think we should just get rid of them all. Get rid of all the Tory MPs off, but no, get rid of all the second jobs. Just don't allow it. Just don't allow it at all. They shouldn't be taking money from any corporation, from any company, because everything's political. Everything's got something to do with that company one way or another. And we are in a situation right now where the water companies that are a monopoly in any one given area, because you can't have a choice of water pipes going to each person's house and going, oh, well, I'll have pipe A today. Oh, no, you're not. Your service isn't good enough. I'm going to have pipe B instead. And because they've moved it from a model in which they had to provide an excellent service to a model where they had to make as much money as possible for their shareholders, and 3/4 of British water companies are foreign owned, by the way. That's why our rivers are full of human excrement, because they put profit before people. They put profit before pollution. It's just, yeah. Super chat is there, but £10. Thank you for Plum Duff. Thank you. Plum Duff is there with a super. I told you it's early. One day, let's hope we are Tory free. That would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. The reason why I'm a bit tired is Adobe Premiere. And I'm not going to go on about this too much, but it is just literally the worst program ever created by the devil. The devil has all the worst programs as far as I'm concerned. The best music, but the worst programs. I've really got to start getting into DaVinci Resolve. I know it's a whole different way of doing it, a whole different interface, but oh my, I can't take 3-hour render times for a 10-minute video with no animation or video. It's just a still, and it's like, why is this taking 3 hours? Anyway, Mad Monk says, most Tories have to get a second job as they're going to lose one at the next general election. Woo! Yeah. That's something to look forward to. Sorry, but I think you need to choose be an MP or something else. Don't say sorry, Freckle Puny. I think you're exactly 100% on the money there. Be an MP or something else. Imagine a young lad who was a promising footballer, but also good at swimming. He'd have to choose one as a full-time career. Yeah. Absolutely. Hayton says, I'm honestly not wild about Labour at the moment, but I live in a Tory-dominated constituency, so I'll still be voting for them just to get the Tories out. Yeah, hey, hon, listen, I'm not being paid by Labour to do this. I've got some connections with the Labour Party more than any other party, but they are going to probably win the next election, and I want us to be in a position where we've opened the dialogue with them. Possibly by the back door, but, you know, where we can actually say, hey, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? Because I think it's going to be a lot easier for us, normal people, to lobby people in the Labour Party than it is for us to lobby people in the Tory Party who will not listen to you unless you're a multi-millionaire or you're a massive multinational company that wants to, I don't know, get the last dregs of oil out of the North Sea. Talking of the North Sea oil, this is really fascinating. I was having a little look into this, and from what I understand, the deal that the Tories want to do, or have even maybe done it, is with Norway. And the deal is this: we pay for, us as taxpayers pay for most of the infrastructure that needs to be put in place. But Norway's going to take 80% of the profits. And we're not even going to sell the oil that we get to ourselves. It's going to be sold on the open international market. Can someone do a little bit more research? Oh, I'll do a little bit more research. I'll come back to this tomorrow because it's one of those things where I'm like, oh my God, I need to talk about this on my show. But I probably need to know a little bit more about it before I start like banging the table going, this is unbelievable. But yeah, worth having a look at the deal between the Tories and the Norwegians. And I think the Norwegians are like just sitting there like, fantastic Mr. Fox, just like, oh, I got a great plan here. Sorry, I've got my hands in my pockets, by the way. I'm just freezing cold. Still, it's like what was it, April the 6th now? Oh my God. Anyway, anything is better than this venal Tory government. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing I'm thinking for accountability and accessibility. Labour are going to be a better choice than the Tories. Well, anyone would be a better choice, and just because of the political system that we've got set up at the moment, it's got to be Labour. I'm hoping that they pledge to put PR on the manifesto, because that's it for the Tories. That's it. The Tory party might as well pack up and go to hell, because where it belongs, because it's just not going to win. We had this discussion with Josh the other day, Josh Russell from the Movement Forward, who are pushing for PR and electoral reform and democratic reform in the UK to make us more democratic, make governments more accessible and accountable. That's what I want. But the fact remains that if a Labour MP gets up to anything, or an SNP member gets up to anything, it's all over the newspapers. They don't let them get away with anything. And look at the way they went after Keir Starmer for having a beer. Yeah. Anyway, having said all that, Labour didn't shower themselves in glory yesterday when news came out about this new revision to the Equalities Act 2010, which is going to specifically exclude trans people from protections that were put in by the Equalities Act of 2010. Their response was, well, it's good to get clarification. That's not a good response, Labour. Labour, hello? That's not a good response. Hopefully in the next few days I'll be talking to trans activist Katie Montgomery about this very issue on the agenda, so look out for that. In my experience, PMs only respond to my questions if they can stick to the party line. Any question that is off piece doesn't even get a response. I've been all right with my MP. I've got Mary Foy here in the northeast, and the two times that I've actually asked her to do something. One was to do with getting subtitles on movies at the community cinema here in Durham, and the other one was to do with when we had refugees staying with us last year, which is one of the reasons why my live casts got quite irregular, because this room is the room that are filming, but it's also our spare bedroom. So you can imagine, like, it's like, oh shit, I can't do the live stuff. Anyway, yeah, she helped us out with that as well. Plum Duff, I've never had a Labour MP where I live, always blasted Tories, so my vote never counts. Yeah, when I used to live in Liverpool, Stephen, what's his name? Oh God, he's the guy who beat the. Oh my God, I can't remember the name of my old MP in Liverpool. He was the guy who beat Michael Portillo in the 1997 election, and then he came to Liverpool. I keep thinking of Stephen Fry, but it's not, because that's Stephen Fry. Anyway, my local MP was really good in West Derby in Liverpool. He used to come round to the house and just come and have a chat and see if everything was all right and check on me dad and stuff. He was a really nice bloke. Anyway, moving on. My MPs have always responded. I don't often write. The exception is when I asked them to look at what intelligence services knew about the Manchester bomber. Not a dicky bird. I don't know if that is within their purview. I don't know. But yeah, I wrote to my local MP, Steve Barclay, after Truss was ousted, requesting a general election. Didn't even get a response. Yeah, Stephen Twigg. Twigg, that's his name. Twigg. Stephen Twigg. Bloody hell. Sorry, Steve, if you're watching this. Factgasm just said Stephen Twigg. Thank you. I just Stephen Fry. You know when you have like a mental block on someone's name and you're like, at least it wasn't to his face. That's always embarrassing. Did I tell you about the time that I once called Vince Cable of the Lib Dems? I once accidentally called him Vince Clark. You know, from Depeche Mode and Assembly and Yazoo and Eurasia. Here in Germany, official servers like the government, police, emergency are under hacker attacks at the moment. Some have pro-Russia background. That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, the amount of interference in Western governments or North and Northwestern governments by Russia in the last 10 years is off the charts. And look at something like Finland has managed to join NATO. Great. And that's doubled the length of the border between NATO and Russia, which is exactly the opposite of what Putin wanted to do. But Putin has successfully managed to get Turkey to spit its dummy out the pram, metaphorically speaking, about Sweden joining. Two things. There was one about a Turkish journalist who now lives in Sweden, and they want him back to stand trial for saying mean things about Erdogan. And the other one was quite interesting. So there was a contributor, quite a regular contributor to RT, Russia Today, which is that disgusting channel that Nigel Farage was hardly ever off, right? And there was this regular contributor to RT, and he basically right-wing nutcase, and he went outside the parliament of Sweden in Stockholm, I assume, and burnt a copy of the Quran. And the only reason he did that was to annoy Erdogan enough and give Erdogan justification for blocking the entry of Sweden to NATO. Because, and I hope this doesn't come as a massive surprise to anyone, because everyone in NATO, it's just a formal, it's just an organisation that people can join or countries can join, and but it needs consensus amongst its members for any one country to join. And if one country has an objection to it, then they can't join. Funnily enough, that's the same system they have with the European Union. Yeah. So when your man Nigel Farage had his breaking point poster and the Tories were putting out things via Cambridge Analytica and the Leave.eu lot, and Aaron Banks putting out these adverts saying, Turkey's going to join the EU, Turkey's going to join the EU. And it's like, actually, if we stay in the EU, then we have a veto over Turkey joining the EU if that's something that we don't want to happen. Because we had a veto, which we're giving away. So now Turkey probably has a slightly better chance of joining the EU, but under Erdogan, I wouldn't hold your breath. But Turkey is a very important strategic partner in NATO because it is the most easterly country that is part of NATO, and obviously it shares borders with countries that NATO might be interested in dabbling in, if you know what I mean. Whatever. Anyway, back to your lovely messages. I have a Tory MP representing my area. This is from the Feckle Puny. Timothy Kirkhope until 1997, and then on a Labour MP, Fabian Hamilton, who has been helpful on a personal level. Yeah, I think if we want to talk about our experiences with our MPs, I mean, all the Labour MPs that I've ever met have been pretty helpful and pretty nice and just fairly down to earth, whereas Tory MPs are weird. Yeah, could you imagine going to Jacob Rees-Mogg for help with anything ever? The Tory MPs who have been accused of just the most horrific crimes, and the whispers about sexual impropriety and bullying and all this. And if you're a vulnerable constituent, you've got to go to your MP and say, I'm having this massive problem with my life, and I'm scared. Would you go? No, you wouldn't. No, you absolutely wouldn't. Here in Germany, I've read that one. They were Manchester MPs. One would hope that is in their purview, to be honest. Stephen, I don't know, because if they're Manchester MPs, then they would... I don't know. I don't know how it works. I'm not even going to comment on that. But yeah, maybe they should have got back to you. I'm in another party, smaller, environmental focus, guess who? But a great deal of the Labour councillors are excellent. Even the rubbish ones are palpably bland. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. In the upcoming election... me and my friends are going to be really pushing for strategic voting, tactical voting. So this is going to be like me and Femi and Supertansky and everyone else that you like to watch on these TikToks and YouTubes and things, on the tubes. We really want to get across to people that vote for the party that's most likely to win in your constituency, just on this one-off. And it's one of the reasons why Labour really, really need to adopt PR, because that would be such a sweetener for people to hold their nose and vote for Labour. If they're staunchly anti-Labour, but they just want the Tories out, and it looks like Labour are going to win. And if they do that, and if we do that, and if Labour and the Lib Dems and the Greens all have non-aggression pacts, we could see a number of Green MPs, a doubling at least, maybe a tripling of the number of Lib Dem MPs. So there'll be more representation in Parliament for those parties. And also Labour will absolutely monster the Tories. And we could be back to the glory days of May 1997, when the Tories were left with about 150 MPs. They were absolutely decimated after years of sleaze, scumbaggery, ruining everything for everyone. And do you know what? Looking back on the 90s now, looking back on the major governments of the 90s, they seem like radicals, left-wing radicals, the wokerati, compared with the lunatics that they've got in charge now, who are just absolutely obsessed with these issues. What do they call them? Like the culture war issues that they just invent, that nobody gave a damn about until the Tories and the newspapers told them to give a damn about it. Like the EU. 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago now, it would have been like 13 years ago, there was a survey done asking people in the UK what their 3 biggest priorities were in politics. 3 biggest things that they thought were most important in politics in the UK in 2010, or whenever the survey was taken. And it showed that you had the crime, the NHS, education, infrastructure, this kind of thing, that they were all near the top. The EU was so far down below at the bottom, you needed a microscope, you needed to dig a hole to see where the EU was on people's personal radar as a really important issue that needed to be addressed immediately. It was 1%. I think 1% put it in their top 3. 1% of respondents. That's countrywide. Labour, Lib Dem, Tory, UKIP, BNP, whatever. 1% thought it was one of the most important things. And within 6 years, it became the be-all and end-all for the entire universe and the future of the UK. And they're doing the same thing now with refugees. There were no boat people before 2018. There were no people coming on boats before 2018 because they didn't need to. And they knew they'd be sent back to France if they tried to attempt it. Please check out the video that I did with Tom Brooks of Durham University, where he talked extensively about the situation with refugees and how the Tory governments have just made it into an issue to win votes. And that's all they've got left now. They've got refugees and trans people. And you're going to see such an attack on both. I mean, you've already seen a lot of it, but it's going to get worse over the next year. So much worse. And my heart goes out to anyone who's affected by what the Tories are doing directly affected. Their lives are being turned upside down. They've already ruined the lives of thousands of Brits living in the EU and millions of Brits living in the EU, millions of EU citizens living in the UK. Families ripped apart. People with Alzheimer's being deported from Sweden. That's where we are now. Or was it Finland? I don't know. One of the two. They all look the same to me. But yeah, it is outrageous what the Tories have got away with so far, and they've got nothing left. Everyone, you saw the question time audience the other week when people said, "Who thought anyone here think that Boris Johnson was telling the truth?" Not one person put their hand up. Anyone think that the Tories are doing a good job in immigration? No one put their hand up. No one. They're doing a terrible job. They're doing a terrible job on purpose, so you hate refugees. The latest wizard wheeze is they want to put them on this barge, right? Now imagine like when you say barge, you think of like a canal boat, I guess, and a narrow boat going through Loch Ness. This is like a big flat boat that's got a sort of tinfoil looking structure on it. You know, one of those like temporary structures that you get on school playgrounds that somehow become permanent since the Tories got in. Basically one of them, and great. So it's a boat and it floats, and they're gonna put vulnerable people in there. There's gonna be 500 men put into this place, all of whom will come from different places, not necessarily speak the same languages, and not necessarily be part of the same groups. Maybe there might be some groups in there that hate each other. Maybe there'll be some people from different castes from the same country that hate each other. Who knows? This is what the Tories are banking on. They're banking on people being put into these horrible conditions and then fighting back against being put into these horrible conditions and horrible things happening and people dying. And then they say, we told you refugees were evil. The other thing it's done is they've painted a big target on this boat. You know, it's like the opposite of a dazzle ship. It's like they've painted a target on this boat for every right-wing extreme nutcase. And don't forget, in Knowsley outside Liverpool, just in February this year, we had a riot in which a police car was burnt. There was a guy who was trying to firebomb a refugee, a place housing refugees down south last year. He wants to burn it down with the refugees inside it. So letting people know where the refugees are going to be housed, giving them very little access, escape routes when it comes to there's a fire. You can't just, climb out the back because you're on the water. I know one side's alongside, but you've got to come out the building that's on the boat. It's weird. It's a boat with a building on top of it. You've got to... it's a health and safety nightmare, and I don't see how it's cheaper than putting people in an actual structure on actual ground, because as anyone who's ever owned a boat will tell you, owning a boat is frickin' expensive because of all the maintenance that you need to do. When you buy a house, generally speaking, the foundation should be sound for a good 100 years or so, maybe longer, maybe a few 100 years. If you think about the bottom of a boat as its foundation, not so good. Not so good, ladies and gentlemen, because it rusts. It rusts, or it rots if it's wood, because it's in water all the time. It's in the water, and then you get like things sticking to it, like barnacles and seaweed and algae, and not great. Maintenance. Anyway, I saw Galloway repeatedly whip up race hate among the South Asian communities against Eastern Europeans. I challenged on it at a meeting and he dodged. Galloway, it was disgusting for doing that. He is one of the most vile Brexiteers there is, and there's a lot of vile Brexiteers. I thought Tories were obsessed with money. No, well, that's where you're wrong, Ben, because the Tories are rich enough. They don't really care about the money. Look at Boris Johnson. He doesn't know what money is. He just asks people, can you lend us a fiver? And they're like, okay, here's a fiver. He said, no. Where's the other 800,000? What? The 800,000 that you said you'd give me. Oh, I asked for it. He said, no, you asked for a fiver. Yeah, I don't know what money is. It's power. It's power, because then they can make more money. So in order for them and their mates and their family and their children to just wallow in money while the rest of us are wallowing in filth that they are creating, because they're polluting all our rivers by the Tory sewage, by the transphobic Tory sewage party, to give it its full title. They're just like rolling in it. And that's what they want. They want power. And they want to keep power. And the best way to keep power is to keep people scared. Scared about and angry. Oh, the EU. God, so angry about the EU. Okay, we left the EU. What are you angry about now? Oh, immigrants. Oh, immigrants. Oh, I hate immigrants. Okay, and what are you angry about? Oh, trans people. Oh, I don't like trans. And this is it. It's just this non-stop cultural bullshit that the Tories just churn out a day in, day out, and it's painful, and I'm sick of it, and I want them out. I want them out. I don't want the Tory party just beaten in the next election. I want it destroyed. Probably not going to get monetized this video either. Anyway, Graham, yes, thank you. Number 3, where does the sewage from the barge prison go? Dumped in the water? Well, usually if you're out at sea, you can dump sewage in the water. But if you're alongside, you have to. There's usually a pipe that you plumb in to take all your plumbing out. I think. I don't know how it would work on a stationary barge like that. I don't know. Great plan, putting people from small boats onto a bigger boat. I know prison hulks. This is from Brian. And where are the others going to be put? 500 is a tiny number. The backlog the Tories have purposely built up. They've done it on purpose. They've stopped processing asylum claims. They've done like 4 in the last year. Tory sewage party, you mean? Yes. Is that not what I said? The UKIP stand down for Tories in 2019 had a huge effect. It's gone into the memory hole as inconvenience. Well, yeah, and then the newspapers are like, oh my God, there might be a link up between the Lib Dems and Labour. And they're having a meltdown about how undemocratic that would be. And you're like, hang on, isn't that exactly what the UKIPers and what what the Tories did in 2019? Yeah, but when they do it, it's all right. Wasn't that what DUP and the Tories did in 2017? Wasn't it with the supply and demand or whatever it's called agreement? I love the supply and confidence. There you go. I love the fact that lots of white Europeans left and migration from not so white non-EU countries has shot up. It's what people voted for in it, lol. Rub their stupid noses in it. Yeah, Stephen, I couldn't agree more on that. It's like, yeah. And also, there's this point about a lot of young professionals from the EU came over and worked for 10, 15 years and then went home to start a family because they actually wanted to have a family where their parents were, because obviously that's free babysitting. And yeah, I mean, it just made more sense for them to live and work in their home country where they knew people and they spoke the language fluently and stuff like that. So that's where they wanted to bring up their children. And that's fair enough. I don't know, some people, a lot of Europeans might have stayed, EU citizens, would have stayed. But the fact is, if you're coming from a developing nation, you're not going to leave. You're not going to go back home. Oh, come on. Come on. Are you? No. Let's be sensible here. Graham, do you know how I shut up the mouth of British Brexiteers when I spoke out about immigration in the UK blaming the EU? I answered them that immigration is everywhere, not EU or UK. Their minds boom. Well, yeah, exactly. Stephen says the boat thing won't work. It's a rerun, a perennially stupid idea, but you can bet the contractors will be fine. I bet it's Serco or Group 4 Security. Group 4 Security, who's in charge of that? Would it be Theresa May's husband? The corrupt, transphobic Tory sewage party. Right, anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Thank you very much, very, very much for joining me. The Patreon page for Labour Social is going to go online very, very soon if you want to sign up so you get a notification when it does. Head over to patreon.com/@ the @ symbol. No, you don't need to do that. Sorry. / Labour Social. You don't need an @ Freckle Peony says, bye all. Why do you think people are against immigration when it's an economic boon? Even because they don't understand that. They don't understand. I mean, it's been proven time and time again. And the simple thing that you need to say to these people is, if immigration was a problem, America would be the poorest country in the world. And North Korea would be the poorest. Richest. Because they don't let people in. Except on guided tours for like a week. Okay, so I'll see you again tomorrow at 9:30 for another round of this morning brew with my morning brew, which I'm having to keep in a flask at the moment just to keep it hot until the end of the show because it's so freaking cold down here. Don't want iced tea at the end of the show. As Stephen Fry said, we all like big boons, and I cannot lie. Okay, so thank you very much to all of my patrons, to all of my YouTube members, and until next time, thanks for all the comments as well, and thanks for the super chats. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30. Until then, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.